Tokyo. Tokyo, historically Tokyo and officially the Tokyo Metropolis, is the capital and largest city of Japan. Its metropolitan area is the most populous in the world, with an estimated 37.468 million residents in 2018. Located at the head of Tokyo Bay, the prefecture forms part of the Kanto region on the central Pacific coast of Japan's main island of Honshu. Tokyo is the political and economic center of the country, as well as the seat of the Emperor of Japan and the national government. As of 2022, the prefecture has an estimated population of 13.99 million. Originally a fishing village, named Edo, the city became a prominent political center in 1603, when it became the seat of the Tokugawa shogunate. By the mid-18th century, Edo was one of the most populous cities in the world at over 1 million. Following the end of the shogunate in 1868, the imperial capital in Kyoto was moved to the city, which was renamed Tokyo, literally Eastern Capital. Tokyo was devastated by the 1923 Great Kantō earthquake, and again by Allied bombing raids during World War II. Beginning in the 1950s, the city underwent rapid reconstruction and expansion, going on to lead Japan's post-war economic recovery. Since 1943, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government has administered the prefecture's 23 special wards, formerly Tokyo City, various bed towns and suburbs in the western area, and 2 outlying island chains. Tokyo is the largest urban economy in the world by gross domestic product, and is categorized as an Alpha Plus city by the Globalization and World Cities Research Network. Part of an industrial region that includes the cities of Yokohama, Kawasaki, and Chiba, Tokyo is Japan's leading center of business and finance. In 2019, it hosted 36 of the Fortune Global 500 companies. In 2020, it ranked 4th on the Global Financial Centers Index, behind New York City, London, and Shanghai. Tokyo has the world's tallest tower, Tokyo Skytree, and the world's largest underground floodwater diversion facility, Mt. The Tokyo Metro Ginza Line is the oldest underground metro line in East Asia, 1927. The city has hosted multiple international events, including the 1964 Summer Olympics and Paralympics, the postponed 2020 Summer Olympics and Paralympics and 3 G7 summits, 1979, 1986, and 1993. Tokyo is an international center of research and development and is represented by several major universities, notably the University of Tokyo. Tokyo Station is the central hub for Japan's Shinkansen bullet train system, and the city is served by an extensive network of rail and subways. Shinjuku Station is also the world's busiest train station. Notable districts of Tokyo include Chiyoda, the site of the National Diet Building and the Imperial Palace, Shinjuku, the city's administrative center, and Shibuya, a commercial, cultural and business hub. Tokyo was originally known as Edo, a kanji compound of cove and door. The name, which can be translated as estuary, is a reference to the original settlement's location at the meeting of the Sumida River in Tokyo Bay. During the Meiji Restoration in 1868, the name of the city was changed to Tokyo, from to East, and Kyo capital, when it became the new imperial capital, in line with the East Asian tradition of including the word capital, in the name of the capital city, for example, Kyoto, Keijo, Beijing, Nanjing, and Jing. During the early Meiji period, the city was sometimes called Tokei, an alternative pronunciation for the same characters representing Tokyo, making it a kanji homograph. Some surviving official English documents use the spelling Tokei, however, this pronunciation is now obsolete. Pre-1869, Edo Period Tokyo was originally a small fishing village called Edo, in what was formerly part of the old Musashi province. Edo was first fortified by the Edo clan, in the late 12th century. In 1457, Oda Doken built Edo Castle. In 1590, Tokugawa Ieyasu moved from Mikawa province, his lifelong base, to the Kanto region. When he became shogun in 1603, Edo became the center of his ruling. During the subsequent Edo period, Edo grew into one of the largest cities in the world with a population topping 1 million by the 18th century. But Edo was still the home of the Tokugawa shogunate and not the capital of Japan. The emperor himself lived in Kyoto from 794 to 1868. During the Edo era, the city enjoyed a prolonged period of peace known as the Pax Tokugawa, and in the presence of such peace, Edo adopted a stringent policy of seclusion, which helped to perpetuate the lack of any serious military threat to the city. The absence of war-inflicted devastation allowed Edo to devote the majority of its resources to rebuilding in the wake of the consistent fires, earthquakes, and other devastating natural disasters that plagued the city. However, this prolonged period of seclusion came to an end with the arrival of American Commodore Matthew C. Perry in 1853. Commodore Perry forced the opening of the ports of Shimoda and Hakodate, leading to an increase in the demand for new foreign goods and subsequently a severe rise in inflation. Social unrest mounted in the wake of these higher prices and culminated in widespread rebellions and demonstrations, especially in the form of the smashing of rice establishments. Meanwhile, supporters of the Meiji Emperor leveraged the disruption that these widespread rebellious demonstrations were causing to further consolidate power by overthrowing the last Tokugawa shogun, Yoshinobu, in 1867. After 265 years, the Pax Tokugawa came to an end. 1869 to 1943. Main articles, Tokyo City and Tokyo Prefecture. In 1869, the 17-year-old Emperor Meiji moved to Edo, and in accordance, the city was renamed Tokyo, meaning Eastern Capital. The city was divided into Yamanote and Shitamachi. Tokyo was already the nation's political and cultural center, and the emperor's residence made it a de facto imperial capital as well, with the former Edo castle becoming the imperial palace. The city of Tokyo was officially established on May 1, 1889. The Tokyo Metro Ginza line portion between Ueno and Asakusa was the first subway line built in Japan and East Asia, completed on December 30, 1927. Central Tokyo, like Osaka, has been designed since about 1900 to be centered on major railway stations in a high-density fashion, so suburban railways were built relatively cheaply at street level and with their own right-of-way. Though expressways have been built in Tokyo, the basic design has not changed. Tokyo went on to suffer two major catastrophes in the 20th century, the 1923 Great Kantō earthquake, which left 140,000 dead or missing, and World War II. 1943 to 1945. In 1943, the city of Tokyo merged with the Prefecture of Tokyo to form the Metropolitan Prefecture of Tokyo. Since then, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government served as both the prefecture government for Tokyo, as well as administering the special wards of Tokyo, for what had previously been Tokyo City. World War II wreaked widespread destruction of most of the city due to the persistent Allied air raids on Japan and the use of incendiary bombs. The bombing of Tokyo in 1944 and 1945 is estimated to have killed between 75,000 and 200,000 civilians and left more than half of the city destroyed. The deadliest night of the war came on March 9 to 10, 1945, the night of the American Operation Meeting House raid, as nearly 700,000 incendiary bombs rained on the eastern half of the city, mainly in heavily residential wards. 2/5 of the city were completely burned, more than 276,000 buildings were demolished, 100,000 civilians were killed, and 110,000 more were injured. Between 1940 and 1945, the population of Japan's capital city dwindled from 6,700,000 to less than 2,800,000, with the majority of those who lost their homes living in ramshackle, makeshift huts. 1,945 present. After the war, Tokyo became the base from which the United States under Douglas MacArthur administered Japan for 6 years. Tokyo struggled to rebuild as occupation authorities stepped in and drastically cut back on Japanese government rebuilding programs, focusing instead on simply improving roads and transportation. Tokyo did not experience fast economic growth until the 1950s. After the occupation of Japan ended in 1952, Tokyo was completely rebuilt and was showcased to the world during the 1964 Summer Olympics. The 1970s and the 1980s brought new high-rise developments. In 1978, Sunshine 60, the tallest skyscraper in Asia until 1985, and in Japan until 1991, and Narita International Airport were constructed, and the population increased to about 11 million in the metropolitan area. The Edo Tokyo Open Air Architectural Museum has historic Japanese buildings that existed in the urban landscape of pre-war Tokyo. Tokyo's subway and commuter rail network became one of the busiest in the world as more and more people moved to the area. In the 1980s, real estate prices skyrocketed during a real estate and debt bubble. The bubble burst in the early 1990s, and many companies, banks, and individuals were caught with mortgage-backed debts while real estate was shrinking in value. A major recession followed, making the 1990s Japan's lost decade, from which it is now slowly recovering. Tokyo still sees new urban developments on large lots of less profitable land. Recent projects include Ebisu Garden Place, Tenazu Isle, Shiodome, Roppongi Hills, Shinagawa, now also a Shinkansen station, and the Marunouchi side of Tokyo Station. Buildings of significance have been demolished for more up-to-date shopping facilities such as Omotesando Hills. Land reclamation projects in Tokyo have also been going on for centuries. The most prominent is the Odaiba area, now a major shopping and entertainment center. Various plans have been proposed for transferring national government functions from Tokyo to secondary capitals in other regions of Japan, to slow down rapid development in Tokyo and revitalize economically lagging areas of the country. These plans have been controversial within Japan and have yet to be realized. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami that devastated much of the northeastern coast of Honshu was felt in Tokyo. However, due to Tokyo's earthquake-resistant infrastructure, damage in Tokyo was very minor compared to areas directly hit by the tsunami, although activity in the city was largely halted. The subsequent nuclear crisis caused by the tsunami has also largely left Tokyo unaffected, despite occasional spikes in radiation levels. On September 7, 2013, the IOC selected Tokyo to host the 2020 Summer Olympics. Tokyo thus became the first Asian city to host the Olympic Games twice. However, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2020 Olympic Games were ultimately postponed to 2021. It is also unclear how the city will deal with an increasing number of issues, urging scholars to offer possible alternatives approaches to tackle the most urgent problems. Geography and government. Satellite photo of Tokyo in 2018 taken by ESA Sentinel-2. Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building. The mainland portion of Tokyo lies northwest of Tokyo Bay and measures about 90 kilometers, 56 miles, east to west and 25 kilometers, 16 miles, north to south. The average elevation in Tokyo is 40 meters, 131 feet. Chiba Prefecture borders it to the east, Yamanashi to the west, Kanagawa to the south, and Saitama to the north. Mainland Tokyo is further subdivided into the special wards, occupying the eastern half, and the Tama area, stretching westwards. Tokyo has a latitude of 35.65, near the 36th parallel north, which makes it more southern than Rome, 41.90, Madrid, 40.41, and New York City, 40.71. Also within the administrative boundaries of Tokyo Metropolis are two island chains in the Pacific Ocean directly south, the Izu Islands, and the Ogasawara Islands, which stretch more than 1,000 kilometers, 620 miles, away from the mainland. Because of these islands and the mountainous regions to the west, Tokyo's overall population density figures far underrepresent the real figures for the urban and suburban regions of Tokyo. Under Japanese law, the Prefecture of Tokyo is designated as A2, translated as metropolis. Tokyo Prefecture is the most populous prefecture and the densest, with 6,100 inhabitants per square kilometer, 16,000 per square mile. By geographic area it is the third smallest, above only Osaka and Kagawa. Its administrative structure is similar to that of Japan's other prefectures. The 23 special wards, Tokubutsu-ku, which until 1943 constituted the city of Tokyo, are self-governing municipalities, each having a mayor, a council, and the status of a city. In addition to these 23 special wards, Tokyo also includes 26 more cities, 5 towns, Cho or Maki, and 8 villages, Sun or Mura, each of which has a local government. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government administers the whole metropolis including the 23 special wards and the cities and towns that constitute the prefecture. It is headed by a publicly elected governor and metropolitan assembly. Its headquarters is in Shinjuku Ward. Municipalities. Map of Nishi-tama District in green. Map of the Izu Islands in black labels. Map of the Ogasawara Islands in black labels. Since 2001, Tokyo consists of 62 municipalities, 23 special wards, 26 cities, 5 towns and 8 villages. Any municipality of Japan has a directly elected mayor and a directly elected assembly, each elected on independent 4-year cycles. 23 of Tokyo's municipalities cover the area that had been Tokyo City until World War II, 30 remain today in the Tama area, former North Tama, West Tama and South Tama districts, 9 on Tokyo's outlying islands. The special wards, Tokubutsu-ku, of Tokyo comprise the area formerly incorporated as Tokyo City. The special wards use the word city in their official English name, for example Chiyoda City. The wards differ from other cities in having a unique administrative relationship with the prefectural government. Certain municipal functions, such as waterworks, sewerage, and firefighting, are handled by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. To pay for the added administrative costs, the prefecture collects municipal taxes, which would usually be levied by the city. The 3 central wards of Tokyo, Chiyoda, Chuo and Minato, are the business core of the city, with a daytime population more than 7 times higher than their nighttime population. Chiyoda Ward is unique in that it is in the very heart of the former Tokyo City, yet is one of the least populated wards. It is occupied by many major Japanese companies and is also the seat of the national government, and the Japanese emperor. It is often called the political center of the country. Akihabara, known for being an otaku cultural center and a shopping district for computer goods, is also in Chiyoda. To the west of the special wards, Tokyo Metropolis consists of cities, towns, and villages that enjoy the same legal status as those elsewhere in Japan. While serving as bed towns for those working in central Tokyo, some of them also have a local commercial and industrial base, such as Tachikawa. Collectively, these are often known as the Tama area or Western Tokyo. The far west of the Tama area is occupied by the district, Gun, of Nishi-Tama. Much of this area is mountainous and unsuitable for urbanization. The highest mountain in Tokyo, Mount Kamoteri, is 2,017 meters, 6,617 feet, high. Other mountains in Tokyo include Takanosu, 1,737 meters, 5,699 feet, Odake, 1,266 meters, 4,154 feet, and Maitake, 929 meters, 3,048 feet. Lake Okatama, on the Tama River near Yamanashi Prefecture, is Tokyo's largest lake. The district is composed of 3 towns, Hinode, Mizuho and Okatama, and 1 village, Hinahara. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government has designated Hachioji, Tachikawa, Machida, Ome and Tama New Town as regional centers of the Tama area, as part of its plans to relocate urban functions away from central Tokyo. Tokyo has numerous outlying islands, which extend as far as 1,850 kilometers, 1,150 miles, from central Tokyo. Because of the island's distance from the administrative headquarters of the Tokyo Metropolitan Government in Shinjuku, local subprefectural branch offices administer them. The Izu Islands are a group of volcanic islands and form part of the Fuji Hakone Izu National Park. The islands in order from closest to Tokyo are Izu Oshima, Toshima, Niijima, Shikinjima, Kozushima, Miyake-jima, Mikurajima, Hashio-jima, and Aogashima. The Izu Islands are grouped into 3 subprefectures. Izu Oshima and Hashio-jima are towns. The remaining islands are 6 villages, with Niijima and Shikinehima forming 1 village. The Ogasawara Islands include, from north to south, Shishijima, Nishinoshima, Hahajima, Kita-Iwo-jima, Iwo-jima, and Minami-Iwo-jima. Ogasawara also administers 2 tiny outlying islands, Minami-Torishima, the easternmost point in Japan and at 1,850 kilometers, 1,150 miles, the most distant island from central Tokyo, and Okinotorishima, the southernmost point in Japan. Japan's claim on an exclusive economic zone, EEZ, surrounding Okinotorishima is contested by China and South Korea as they regard Okinotorishima as uninhabitable rocks which have no ease. The Iwo chain and the outlying islands have no permanent population, but host Japan Self-Defense Forces personnel. Local populations are only found on Shishijima and Hahajima. The islands form both Ogasawara subprefecture and the village of Ogasawara, Tokyo. Municipal mergers. When Tokyo reached its current extent except for smaller border changes in 1893, it consisted of over 170 municipalities, 1, by definition, district independent, city, 9 districts with their towns and villages, plus the island communities that had never part of Ritsuryo districts. By 1953, the number of municipalities had dropped to 97. The current total of 62 was reached in 2001. National parks. Ogasawara National Park, a UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site. As of March 31, 2008, 36% of the total land area of the prefecture was designated as natural parks, second only to Shiga Prefecture, namely the Chichibutama Kai, Fuji Hakone Izu, and Ogasawara National Parks, the last a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Meiji no Mori Takao Quasi National Park, and Akakawa Kuryo, Hamura Kusawana Kuryo, Sayama, Takao Jinba, Takayama, and Tama Kuryo Prefectural Natural Parks. A number of museums are located in Ueno Park, Tokyo National Museum, National Museum of Nature and Science, Shitamachi Museum and National Museum for Western Art, among others. There are also artworks and statues at several places in the park. There is also a zoo in the park, and the park is a popular destination to view cherry blossoms. Earthquakes. Minor quakes. A bilingual sign with instructions, in Japanese and English, in case of an earthquake. Shibuya, Tokyo is near the boundary of 3 plates, making it an extremely active region for smaller quakes and slippage which frequently affect the urban area with swaying as if in a boat, although epicenters within mainland Tokyo, excluding Tokyo's 2,000 kilometers, 1,243 miles long island jurisdiction, are quite rare. It is not uncommon in the metro area to have hundreds of these minor quakes, magnitudes 4 to 6, that can be felt in a single year, something local residents merely brush off but can be a source of anxiety not only for foreign visitors but for Japanese from elsewhere as well. They rarely cause much damage, sometimes a few injuries, as they are either too small or far away as quakes tend to dance around the region. Particularly active are offshore regions and to a lesser extent Chiba and Ibaraki. Infrequent powerful quakes. Tokyo has been hit by powerful megathrust earthquakes in 1703, 1782, 1812, 1855, 1923, and much more indirectly, with some liquefaction in landfill zones. In 2011, the frequency of direct and large quakes is a relative rarity. The 1923 earthquake, with an estimated magnitude of 8.3, killed 142,000 people, the last time the urban area was directly hit. The 2011 quake focus was hundreds of kilometers away and resulted in no direct deaths in the metropolitan area. Volcanic eruptions. Mount Fuji is about 100 kilometers, 62 miles, southwest of Tokyo. There is a low risk of eruption. The last recorded was the Hoai eruption which started on December 16, 1707, and ended about January 1, 1708, 16 days. During the Hoai eruption, the ash amount was 4 cm in southern Tokyo, Bay Area, and 2 cm to half a centimeter in central Tokyo. Kanagawa had 16 cm to 8 cm ash and Saitama 0.5 to 0 cm. If the wind blows northeast it could send volcanic ash to Tokyo Metropolis. According to the government, less than a millimeter of the volcanic ash from a Mount Fuji eruption could cause power grid problems such as blackouts and stop trains in the Tokyo